Growing dendrobiums can seem to be a hit and miss kind of thing with a lot of people. Although they're some of the easiest to grow orchids, some people find them almost the hardest to get to bloom. Now we're in late winter, coming towards early spring, and our Dendrobium nobiles, the soft cane dendrobiums, are all starting to come into flower now. So let's have a look into what it takes to grow them. Growing these Dendrobium nobiles or the Dendrobium nobile hybrids can be incredibly easy, especially if you're growing them out on a tree. They accept just about any climatic conditions as long as it is not at frost point. They really don't like the frost. The frost can kill them. Well, anyway, it can kill the leaves, and if the frost gets too severe, then it will start killing the pseudobulbs too. And what they particularly do like is to get those cooler evening temperatures during winter. They like that cool and dry winter rest period, and that's what really gets them to flower well. If you're giving them too much water during that winter rest period, you find you're probably going to get more kikis than you are going to get flowers. Yeah, this flowering has just begun. We have still lots and lots of buds that are still to open and some buds that are still forming. Some years you'll get them all to bloom at the same time and you'll get this mass display. Other years you get a longer display with sort of more mottle sort of flowering effects. Notice here, this is getting full direct sun. This is especially at this time of year, through winter and everything, they like to get that full direct sun to be able to keep building up that energy reserves that they need to flower well. In the summertime, because it's under the shade of a tree, it's going to get protection from that hot midday sun, so it's not going to burn the leaves. So this is an ideal sort of climate for them. If you're growing them indoors, you're going to have to grow them really close to your windows to ensure that they're getting as much light as possible. You really want them to be that light soft green. And this is also what differentiates them from those hard cane dendrobiums, is other than those softer canes, which will tend to reflex over the pot, is the lighter, thinner leaves that they get that are more flexible. The hard cane dendrobiums are going to be a lot harder leaf and less likely to bend and also be a more deep green. Also, with a lot of these soft cane dendrobiums, if you get those canes to yellow up in the winter, that often means you're going to get a better flowering out of them. So don't worry if your canes look like they're starting to yellow, especially if they've lost all their leaves, those older canes that are now directly exposed to the sun. That just means that they're probably going to flower better. Because remember, with these soft cane dendrobiums, a lot of them are able to flower off not only those new canes, but those older canes as well, which really gives them that spectacular display. So what else is in flower other than just the Dendrobium nobiles? This is the species. We also have the fimbriatum that's in flower here. This one's just finishing off over here, but we still have some more buds coming and some flowers. We'll also show you some of the others that we have and some of the other soft cane dendrobiums that are coming into flower. A lot of these soft cane dendrobiums are that late winter, early spring flowering after that winter rest. As the temperatures start rising again and you start getting a little bit of rain, that's when they all start to bloom. And here we go, a rather large Dendrobium fimbriatum. Also starting to bloom. Just remember with these especially, they produce flowers continually. They'll continue to push out those new little buds, producing these amazing yellow flowers with that deep maroon to the center of the lip. This is Dendrobium fimbriatum variation oculatum. So also out here in the full sun, and that's where they're going to grow and bloom the best. And here we go, another one of those Dendrobium fimbriatums variation oculatum. In flower with lots of buds coming. And notice in a nice air pot that one in the larger pot has got really large bark pieces to allow for excellent drainage and lots of air movement, because remember, these are epiphytic orchids. They do actually prefer growing on trees or being mounted. So if you are putting them into pots, remember, lots of air movement. They need to be able to get those roots to breathe so that they can be healthy. They do rot incredibly easy if kept too moist. And here we go, another one of those soft cane dendrobiums. This is Dendrobium Hamana Lake. It's an interspecific hybrid and lots of buds still coming, but those are just the cutest little flowers ever. And also remember, even though this is such a small, almost dainty orchid, you see how small those pseudobulbs seem to be? They are still tough plants. So don't think that you're going to need to water this continually throughout the winter, because you're going to start landing up problems. You'll get all those kikis instead of the blooms again, and you'll probably rot the roots of this. So this you're going to treat just as hard and as rough as what you're going to do those Dendrobium nobles out in the garden. And our Dendrobium Oriental Smile, here with those most magnificent colored blooms, just blooming away out here. Again, getting some of that good full day sun, flowering up a storm, and just left outside almost to its own devices. And here another Dendrobium fimbriatum just growing out on one of our railway sleepers, just out here in the full sun again. These here again are going to be a little bit shaded from heavy midday sun from the canopy above during that summer period. So that's going to keep them from overheating. But these fimbriatums, they're not going to be so fussy. If they are out even in that full midday sun in summer, they generally tend to be hardy enough to be able to cope with that. With these Dendrobium nobles, especially the hybrids like this, I would rather keep them out of that hot midday sun because their leaves will tend to burn. The noble itself, the species, is generally okay. You're going to get less leaf volume during that heat in the summer than you will. You'll get shorter canes, and whether that affects your flowering in any way is debatable. And here's more of our Dendrobium nobles just here underneath this rather large fig tree. These get a lot less sun. We can see we even shaded here during winter. We still have a fair number of blooms, not as many as what we do get with those ones out in the full sun. But we still get a beautiful show of flowers here, so we still keep quite a few of our Dendrobiums here. And even some of that beautiful Cooksonianum variation, Dendrobium noble Cooksonianum, with that beautiful deep color to those inside of those petals as well as just the lip. So we just have a selection of them hanging here as well. That's the wonderful thing about them, is they'll adapt to just about any climate, any position, and still flower beautifully for you as long as you keep to those key considerations. That dry winter rest is probably the most important part. And also those slightly cooler temperatures during that winter period, that day-night variation is going to be important to help get them to flower. If you're in warmer areas, you may find them extremely difficult to flower if your winter temperatures don't cool down. So you may have to put them in an air-conditioned space with humidity, etc., to be able to get your temperatures down for at least about a month's period. I'd say would probably be the best. And one of the really darker varieties, all our bright yellow ones and that are still waiting to come into bloom. It looks like we have Dendrobium vaginalis about to bloom as well. All of these still coming up. I just did this growing Dendrobium video early just to be able to give you an idea of how to look after them to ensure that they do flower. We'll be sure to show you all of these in full bloom when they are looking magnificent. And there's one more that I want to take you down to. And I'll show you some in the other trees as well that have been growing there for not that long yet. They're newly transplanted onto the trees, but they'll get there eventually. So up here is one of our darker flowering Dendrobium nobile varieties, but just coming into bloom now. We can see all those pretty flowers coming up over there. So this Jabuticaba needs to be trimmed back to give enough light and space so that it can show off all its beautiful flowers properly. And here's more of those Cooksonianums that we put out on this cabbage tree. It's in one of our other mounting videos. I'll link that in the description box down below. And we can see how they're starting to flower up and grow now too. And here too, you can see we never miss an opportunity or a branch to put orchids on. We've just covered the branches of this Coosonia natalensis, this natal cabbage tree, with little Dendrobium kikis. Most of these are just going to be that plain Dendrobium nobile, but there are a few other bits and pieces mixed in to try and give a splash of color. Also, the one wonderful thing about these Coosonias is their thick, heavy bark that they have, so that's going to allow for the orchid roots really to attach well and to be able to absorb all those nutrients and moisture that they can, not only from the atmosphere, but from when any rain happens. And these that are outside on these trees don't ever get fed, they don't get watered, they're left to their own natural devices. And if you are unsure on what Dendrobium you have, remember to go down, check on that Buy Me a Coffee link. Ed has posted up over 100 different articles on all sorts of different orchids. There are Dendrobium specific articles there too that are in point form and easy to follow, and that will help you decide on what Dendrobium or type of Dendrobium that you have. Thank you for watching. If you have found any of this information helpful, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and that notification bell, bing bong, to be notified of all our upcoming content so you don't miss out on a thing. Help us grow as we help your orchids grow.